So I want you to imagine this for a second. There's a traveler, right? And he's standing right at the edge of this vast, just seemingly endless desert.
Okay, I can picture it.
Yeah, and he's got this heavy canvas backpack slung over one shoulder. His eyes are just completely fixed on this distant horizon that's, shimmering with heat.
Right.
And the thing is, for this trip, he has left absolutely everything behind. I mean, he quit the stressful job, packed up his apartment in the bustling city, stepped away from, all his complicated relationships.
He just completely pulled the plug on his routine.
Exactly, abandoned every single daily routine. Because he is utterly convinced that somewhere out there, beyond the dunes and the dust, lies the answer to a question he can't even quite articulate.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Maybe he's looking for profound peace, or maybe it's this grand purpose, or honestly, maybe it's just tangible proof that he is actually alive.
It is such a familiar cultural image, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we see it in movies, in books, in how we talk about finding ourselves.
Yeah, the ultimate escape.
Right. We automatically assume that just because his physical body is moving towards something new, his internal state is somehow moving towards something transformative.
Because that's what we're sold, right?
Exactly. But the reality of his situation on the ground is, well, it's much heavier. As he walks for days, the landscape around him shifts dramatically. The sand dunes turn into rocky plains. The temperature drops at night.
But his thoughts
do not change at all. The exact same baseline anxiety that bothered him at his office desk is still, humming in the background of his brain like a bad refrigerator.
Oh, man. That is such a brutal image.
Right. He photographs the incredible sunsets. He collects interesting stones. He writes diligently in his leather-bound journal. But the silence inside him just feels louder and, honestly, more oppressive.
And that right there is the premise of our deep dive today. We are going to unpack the illusion of travel.
Yes, we are.
We've pulled together this really fascinating stack of sources, heavily grounded in some deep philosophical concepts and Gestalt psychology, to explore why, frankly, going somewhere else rarely fixes anything for you.
It really doesn't.
No. So we're going to look at the mechanics of why true discovery isn't actually about changing your geography, but about completely reorganizing your perception.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because right off the bat, this fundamentally challenges every instinct we have about taking a vacation to, get away from it all.
It really does. And primarily because we carry around this massive misunderstanding of what a journey actually is. I mean, in our everyday lives, we talk about travel as a strictly linear trajectory.
Right, like an itinerary.
Exactly. You have departure, you have transit, and you have arrival. You just move from point A to point B on a map.
Yeah.
But from the perspective of Gestalt psychology, which is the study of how human beings organize their experiences into meaningful wholes, travel is never really about geography.
It is entirely about the mechanics of perception. Specifically, it involves this foundational concept known as figure and ground.
Figure and ground. Right, let's ground that in a real experience, no pun intended.
I love a good pun.
So when you step onto, say, a bullet train in a new country, or you board a plane, or set foot on a remote mountain trail, you aren't just changing your GPS coordinates.
No, you're radically reconfiguring your perceptual field.
Exactly. The things that normally act as your ground, like the background noise of your life, the hum of traffic outside your apartment, the familiar rhythm of your morning commute, all of that just fades away.
It drops out of the picture.
Right. And suddenly, totally new details rise up into your immediate focus, like the sharp scent of pine trees or the cadence of a foreign language you don't even speak.
Or just the specific way the afternoon light hits an unfamiliar brick wall.
Yes. That new, captivating detail becomes the figure, and everything else just recedes into the ground.
Exactly. You are swapping out the raw data of your daily life for new raw data.
Yeah.
But here is the critical mechanism that is rarely acknowledged.
What's that?
That new figure isn't actually out there in the physical world.
Wait, what do you mean?
I mean, the charm of that brick wall or the beauty of that pine forest doesn't exist independently of you. The figure emerges purely from the active interaction between your inner psychological state and the outer physical world.
So the environment is just what?
The environment around you is just raw, neutral data until your consciousness steps in and organizes it into something meaningful.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense when you think about how two people can have wildly different experiences standing in the exact same physical space.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, think about Paris. A grieving person wandering the streets of Paris is not seeing the same city as a newly in love couple on their honeymoon.
Not at all.
Right. The grieving person notices the coldness of the cobblestones, the grayness of the sky, the isolation of a single pigeon on a bench.
It's a very bleak figure.
Yeah, but the romantic couple doesn't even perceive the cold stone. Their figure is the warmth of the cafe lights and, the smell of fresh bread.
That's a perfect example.
Or think about something simple, like a puddle on the sidewalk. A young child looks at a puddle and sees pure magic, like an entire ocean to stomp in.
And the adult?
The adult walking to work looks at that exact same puddle and sees an annoying inconvenience that's going to ruin their leather shoes.
Right.
The physical components of the puddle haven't changed. The physical city of Paris hasn't changed. The organization of the perception has.
That's precisely it. You are never just a static observer moving passively through a neutral world. You are a dynamic pattern of attention. You're constantly co-creating reality with your environment in real time.
Wow, co-creating reality.
Yeah. Travel, then, isn't about finding a better environment. It is a temporary, forced disruption of your habitual perceptual patterns. In Gestalt theory, we call these habitual patterns fixed gestalts.
Okay, let me pause you there. Because if the physical city of Paris hasn't changed at all, does that mean the figure we are desperately traveling thousands of miles to see is entirely made up in our own heads?
Well,
are we essentially just hallucinating our expensive vacations?
no, not hallucinating. It is an active, ongoing collaboration. The Gothic architecture is real, the smell of the espresso is real.
Okay, phew.
But their meaning, their emotional weight, and their prominence in your conscious awareness that is dictated entirely by your internal filters.
These fixed gestalts you mentioned.
Exactly. Those fixed gestalts are essentially rigid, invisible structures through which we interpret our everyday reality. They're deep-seated beliefs we carry around.
Like what?
Like, I am fundamentally unlovable.
Oh.
Or, the world is an inherently dangerous place. Or maybe success only looks like a specific job title.
Ah, I see.
These fixed gestalts act as a heavy filter. They determine what you even allow into your awareness while dismissing everything else as irrelevant background noise.
So when you plunge yourself into a foreign culture, those rigid filters suddenly wobble. They fail you.
They absolutely do.
Because the social customs you always assumed were just, like, universal human truths are suddenly revealed as totally arbitrary.
Yes.
The way people view time is different. You can't rely on language to smoothly navigate a supermarket. Your sense of self, which feels so incredibly solid and stable when you're sitting on your couch in your living room, suddenly becomes porous and fragile.
And in that moment of destabilization, something extraordinary happens to the human brain.
What's that?
You are granted the rare possibility of reperceiving. Because the old filters are completely offline, you are forced to look closer at reality.
You literally have no choice.
Exactly. Which brings to mind the beautiful Japanese concept of ma. It translates roughly to the pregnant, meaningful space between things.
Oh, I've heard of this.
In Western thought, our cultural filters train us to relentlessly focus on objects. We look at the tree, the building, the person talking.
Right, the stuff.
The stuff. But in many Eastern traditions, the profound meaning actually resides in the intervals. It's the silence between the musical notes that makes the melody.
Oh, wow.
It's the gap between breaths. It's the empty space around a ceramic bowl that actually makes it useful.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because Izzy is experiencing Ma like looking up at a constellation in the night sky for the very first time, and suddenly, instead of just obsessively connecting the bright dots of the stars, you notice the vast, heavy darkness that is actually holding those stars.
Oh, what a beautiful way to put it. Yeah.
It's like you suddenly realize the emptiness isn't empty at all. The darkness is the very thing giving the stars their shape and context.
That's it, exactly. When you get hopelessly lost in a narrow Kyoto alleyway, for instance, you aren't just navigating physical streets anymore.
Right.
Because your normal filters for how a city works are offline, you are forced to learn how to read absence as presence. Every unmarked doorway is suddenly vibrating with potential. You are actively confronting the spaces between the things you normally focus on.
But, okay, if we're suddenly staring at the spaces between in a foreign alleyway, the reason our brains don't just short-circuit into total panic is because of how we build meaning in the first place.
Correct.
But how does the brain actually construct this new meaning on the fly without becoming completely overwhelmed by the disorientation? Like, why don't we just freeze?
To understand the mechanics of that, we have to look at the architecture of meaning itself.
Okay.
A foundational principle of Gestalt psychology is this specific phrase. The whole is other than the sum of its parts.
Other than.
Yes. I want to emphasize the word other there, not greater. Meaning doesn't reside in isolated elements. The meaning resides entirely in the relationships between those elements.
Like trying to navigate a brand new subway system.
Exactly like that.
Because, like, on paper, the transit map is just a chaotic tangle of colored lines, dots, and arbitrary station names. It's literally just ink.
Just shapes on a page.
Right. But when you are standing on an unfamiliar platform, desperately trying to get back to your hotel, your brain takes that map and actively overlays it onto the physical world around you.
It bridges the gap.
Yeah, the colored lines become actual trains, the dots become physical stops, the map and the city merge into a single, unified mental model so you don't get lost.
Yes. Your brain isn't making a literal one-to-one photocopy of the city in your head. It is creating a dynamic structural model so you can actually walk around without stepping into traffic.
Wow.
In psychology, there's a specific term for this. It's called isomorphism. Isomorphism is the structural correspondence between your inner experience and outer reality.
Isomorphism, okay.
It's how your mental map matches the physical territory just enough for you to function.
And if a gust of wind blows that physical map out of your hands and onto the tracks, absolute panic rises in your chest.
Pure terror.
Not because the physical city around you suddenly shifted or crumbled. I mean, the buildings are exactly where they were 3 seconds ago.
Right.
But your internal field of meaning just totally collapsed. Without that organizing isomorphic framework, every subway tunnel looks identical. Every street sign just becomes visual
The
noise.
physical world didn't become more chaotic.
Yeah.
Your ability to structure it faltered. And this really is the hidden psychological drama of every journey we take.
Yeah.
You enter a new field saturated with completely unfamiliar stimuli, and everything is fiercely competing to be the figure in your awareness. Your ego naturally resists this disorientation.
You want safety.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It tries to comfort you by saying, oh, this bustling market in Marrakesh is just like the farmer's market back home.
Oh, I've totally done that.
We all do. That is the ego's defense mechanism.
Yeah.
But if you can tolerate the ambiguity and allow the perceptual field to reconfigure itself naturally, an aggressive street vendor's shout stops being terrifying background noise and becomes an integral part of the city's melody.
And we are the ones doing the active configuring.
Here we are.
It's like that famous optical illusion, right? The Rubin vase. You look at the black and white image, and your brain either sees 2 faces in profile looking at each other, or it flips and you see a single ornate vase in the center.
Yep.
The actual ink printed on the page never changes, but your perception aggressively flips between 2 totally stable, coherent wholes. The perceiver completes the gestalt.
Completely.
Travel forces us into that exact kind of existential ambiguity every day. Is a stranger approaching you on a dark street a threat, or are they a helpful guide?
That's the constant question.
Okay, but let's be totally realistic for a second. If we are the ones completing the gestalt, if we are the ones constantly deciding if it's a vase or 2 faces, aren't we in incredible danger of just seeing what we want to see? Aren't we just turning every foreign city we visit into a giant, expensive mirror of our own existing biases?
What's fascinating here is that the human mind actually has a highly specific, built-in mechanism for doing exactly that.
Wait, really?
Yes. It's
Yep.
called the law of pregnance,
Mm-hmm.
which essentially translates to the tendency toward good form.
Good form.
Right. The human brain aggressively seeks simplicity, symmetry, and closure. It absolutely abhors fragmentation and ambiguity.
It wants things to be neat and tidy.
Very neat. It takes massive cognitive energy to hold 2 conflicting ideas at once. So when your brain faces incomplete information in a new environment, it frantically fills in the gaps in the most stable, familiar, and coherent way possible.
Oh, wow.
And yes, very frequently, that means defaulting to your old, comfortable biases.
And this is exactly where we fall into the trap of the healing vacation.
Yes, the Bali trap.
Because we all carry around an immense amount of what Gestalt therapists call unfinished business.
We really do.
We have unresolved arguments with our partners, we have creative dreams we deferred, we have deep grief we never actually sat down and processed. These are open gestalts.
Psychic loops demanding to be closed.
Yes. And because our minds are so desperate for that law of pregnancy closure, we project our inner incompleteness onto physical geography.
We do.
We literally tell ourselves, when I finally step off the plane in Bali, I will be a relaxed person. Or, after this 6-week backpacking trip through Europe, my career path will magically make sense.
We constantly confuse geographical arrival with psychological completion.
Right.
We make the physical destination a symbolic stand-in for internal wholeness.
Which is so unfair to the destination.
It is.
Yeah.
Because the harsh reality is when you step onto that beautiful beach in Bali, that exact same tension is still sitting there, heavy in your chest. Because the incompleteness was never about your physical location. It was about contact.
Contact.
Yes, it was about your inability to allow your emotional experience to fully form and be felt in the present moment, rather than constantly deferring your actual life to some imaginary future horizon.
We want the aha moment to be delivered to us by the scenery, like room service.
That's a great analogy.
It reminds me of the classic Wolfgang Kohler experiments with chimpanzees from the early 20th century.
Oh, the insight learning experiments.
Yeah. So the chimp is placed in a room, and there's a delicious banana hanging from the ceiling, totally out of reach. After hours of jumping and failing, the chimp sits down, just, frustrated.
Right.
Then suddenly it looks at some random wooden boxes scattered in the corner. It walks over, stacks the boxes on top of each other, climbs them like a staircase, and gets the banana.
The crucial observation Kohler made there was that the psychological breakthrough was not incremental.
Right.
The chimp didn't slowly figure it out through trial and error. It was a sudden structural insight. All the elements, the boxes, the height of the room, the goal of the banana, were present the entire time.
They were just sitting there.
Exactly. Initially, the boxes were just perceived as background objects. But the solution only emerged when those exact same physical elements were suddenly perceived as a new relational whole.
So the box is transformed.
Yes, in the chimp's mind, they went from useless wood into a tool for climbing.
It's like a human being suddenly realizing that their dead-end job isn't a permanent trap, but actually a necessary stepping stone to learn a specific skill. The job didn't change, their structural insight of the job changed.
Precisely.
But let me push back on this because I think a lot of people listening would argue this point.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't it factually, biologically easier to get that structural insight, that chimp stacking the boxes moment of clarity when you are drinking a coconut on a pristine beach in Bali, thousands of miles away from your screaming email inbox and your 2-hour daily commute?
That's a very fair question.
Right. Doesn't the physical distance lower your cortisol enough to actually allow the insight to happen?
It can absolutely provide a temporary physiological reprieve, yes.
Yeah.
The quiet of the beach might lower your heart rate enough to make it easier to hear your own thoughts.
So travel helps.
But the beach itself does not create the insight. You can have all the pieces of a perfectly fulfilling life laid out right in front of you, the skills, the loving relationships, the opportunities, and remain entirely stuck, paralyzed with anxiety, because you are still organizing all those pieces through an outdated gestalt.
Like, I'm not ready yet.
Exactly. Or, I don't deserve this. Insight only occurs when you stop rearranging the external furniture of your life and actually knock down the internal walls of your perception.
Wow.
And that reorganization is always available to you, anywhere, at any time. Because true discovery is not about movement through space.
Tell me more about that.
Well, take the famous literary example of Marcel Proust. He traveled across decades of his own memory, expanding his entire perceptual field to encompass lifetimes of emotion and sensory detail.
Oh, the Madeleine cookie.
Yes, all triggered simply by the taste of a Madeleine cookie dipped in tea, while he was physically confined to his bed.
Crazy.
His physical body didn't move an inch across the globe, yet his perceptual journey was vast.
Or to bring it into the everyday, it's like sitting on a weathered park bench in the city you've lived in your entire life.
Right.
You're sitting there waiting for a friend who is running 20 minutes late, and you're bored and annoyed. And suddenly, for whatever reason, you drop your fixed gestalt and you actually look at the pigeons pecking at the concrete.
You really see them.
Yeah, you stop seeing them automatically as, flying rats or background noise, and you notice the iridescent purple on their necks. You notice how they tilt their heads, navigating this complex social hierarchy and a physical world that is just as intensely real to them as your world is to you.
In that single profound instant, your usual figure, the thought, I am annoyed, I'm waiting for my friend, dissolves completely into the ground.
It vanishes.
The pigeons become the vivid foreground. The mundane city block becomes wildly alive and intricate in a way it simply wasn't 3 seconds prior.
Yeah.
You haven't moved a muscle off that bench.
Yeah.
But you have deeply traveled.
Because you shifted what Gestalt psychology calls the contact boundary. When you walk through a dense forest and you are truly, entirely present with the crunch of the dry leaves under your boots and the sharp smell of the damp earth, you aren't just a separate, isolated ego observing nature like a painting on a wall.
No, you're part of it.
Your nervous system is actively responding to the drop in temperature. Your breath is physically syncing with the exertion of the hike. The rigid eye that travels softens its borders. You aren't moving through the world as a tourist anymore, you are moving with it.
Yes.
You and the forest are one continuous unfolding event.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, modern neuroscience actually confirms this Gestalt idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The human brain is essentially a prediction machine. It constantly uses past experiences to guess what will happen next to save energy.
That makes sense.
Our daily reality is largely a controlled hallucination based on memory. But when you truly pay attention, when you enter that state of heightened, curious contact with the present moment, that automatic predictive machinery is temporarily disrupted.
The filters wobble again.
Exactly. The physiological veil between subject and object thins out. And this is where the deepest, most terrifying insight of the journey emerges.
Which is?
There was never an idealized future self waiting for you to arrive. The seeker was always the sought.
So what does this all mean for us? Because our ego absolutely hates that idea.
It despises it.
The ego loves the grand cinematic narrative of the external journey. It thrives on the drama of departure, the struggle of the transit, and the triumphant changed return.
It wants a story to tell.
Right. It desperately wants the passport stamps, the exotic souvenirs, and the carefully curated photo albums to prove to the world and to itself that it is evolving and becoming more interesting.
But the mechanics of perception don't care about your narrative. They only care about your contact with the present.
Have we just been changing the scenery of our solitude our whole lives? Are all our stunning Instagram travel photos just evidence that we've been exhausting ourselves, performing a grand journey for an audience of one?
This raises an important question, perhaps the most urgent one for anyone seeking change.
Yeah.
If you spend thousands of dollars to cross an ocean, but you return home with the exact same rigid filters, the same unexamined assumptions about who you are, and the exact same unfinished business simply projected onto a new backdrop,
Oh boy.
then you never actually left home. You just dressed your internal landscape in foreign clothes for a few weeks.
That is profound.
True travel takes nothing from the environment, and it adds nothing to it. It simply rearranges the relationship between what is seen and what sees.
Between figure and ground.
Exactly. A Gestalt, a moment of true contact, doesn't need to be beautiful or exotic or Instagram-worthy to be whole. It just needs to be fully honestly experienced.
The path to transformation isn't waiting for you hundreds of miles ahead on a map. It is quite literally right beneath your feet, residing entirely in the quality of attention you bring to this exact moment in time.
That's beautifully said.
So, for everyone listening right now, the next time you feel that frantic, overwhelming urge to open a new tab and book an expensive flight just to escape the pressure of your life, I want you to try something. Just pause. Take a deep breath. Look around your immediate, boring environment for the ordinary, and make it newly visible by giving it your true, undivided attention.
Exactly. Because the destination you are actually yearning for isn't a place on a globe. It's a state of fluid awareness.
Yeah.
You don't need to exhaust yourself trying to reach the distant horizon.
Right.
You just need to realize that the horizon has been moving with you, inside you, all along.
Which leaves me with one final, slightly terrifying thought for you to chew on as you go about your day.
Oh, I'm ready.
We've established today in this deep dive that our true self only really exists at this dynamic, unpredictable contact boundary with our environment.
Right.
It requires the unexpected friction of physical reality to wobble our filters and form a complete gestalt.
It does.
So what happens to human consciousness as we inevitably begin spending more and more of our waking lives in entirely frictionless, algorithmically curated digital spaces? If the ground of our daily experience becomes completely artificial, and the figure is pre-programmed by a machine designed to give our ego exactly what it already wants without any of that unscripted ambiguity or spaces between.
That's a chilling thought.
Right. Can we ever truly travel or experience insight in a digital world?
Yeah.
Or are we just building the ultimate, inescapable desert for that traveler to wander in forever?